Good morning. Welcome to Grief Support Group. I'm your host, Alex Piscatelli, and we are here for what I am deeming unofficially, as the Valentine's Day special. You know, every single day in our lives, in Grief Support Group, of course, we talk about love, we talk about dating, we talk about grief and death and life and all of the above. Today, though, we're going to focus a little more on love. I think a little more on romance. Nothing crazy, just a little bit. The past 2 episodes, I have been standing when I talk, and today is no different. I think we are in the time. It is 2026. It is the year of pent-up energy. It is the year of energy. It is the year of being here. Okay? But if you are new to Grief Support Group, what this show is a show where I talk all things pop culture, my research on grief and media, and I answer your advice questions. So usually for advice questions, and it depends on what people submit. So this isn't a hard and fast rule, but typically, we have like a question about grief, a question about something dating or love related, romantic related. But today for our Valentine's Day special, we have 2 dating and love-related questions, which I'm very excited to get to today. But before we do that, also, I have thesis updates, and you know what? I'm still juggling what I'm going to talk about in my next segment. I actually have 2 ideas, so we'll see where the wind takes me. I'm calling today, seeing where the wind takes me. The reason for that being, so in one of my classes, we start the class where the professor asks us, how do we feel on a scale of 1 to 10 today? And I wrote about this in my newsletter, which you can read at griefandmedia.com. I wrote about how last week I answered like a 5.7, or no, maybe I said like a 5.7. The reason being 5 felt too like depressed, and then 6 felt too happy. So I really needed to land somewhere in the middle, like just this arbitrary number that I grasped at desperately. But the truth of the matter is, the reason why that question is so hard for me to answer is because I feel so different at all times. I think what I answered on Tuesday in class is I said I was an 8, which, in that moment, I was an 8. I felt like an 8. I really resonated with feeling like an 8. It felt real. It felt right. Then a mere 3 hours pass, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like a 4. Right now, I feel like a 4. And that's the thing. You can answer whatever number at any given day, and that's fine. But I don't think that's enough. I need to give a report of the last 24 hours. I feel like my mood can change with the wind at a drop of a hat. I feel like I can go from an 8 to a 4 back to a 10, down to like a 7 to a 4-6, then back to 9. Like it can all happen so quickly. And you know why? Because it's okay to change your mind when you get new information. And I feel like in life, I'm constantly getting new information, and I'm constantly changing my mind, and I feel like that's okay. So I'm excited for today's Valentine's Day show. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about Valentine's Day, of course. But first, I wanted to tie a bow on some of my previous updates and conversations in the last week. Some of you may remember I discussed my M key on my computer. M key no longer on my computer. There's just nothing there. It's just like a little nub situation that I have to press to get an M. But sometimes I can't capitalize the M, and so I had to have my husband send me a capital M over text so I could have a capital M for the purposes I needed it for. So that is hard. That's a challenge. But as of now, I have no plans to correct this M key. I think, you know what? Imperfection keeps the world go round, and I'm going to keep it as such. I think it wants to, the underwiring and underworking of my M key, I think she wants to be out and about. I think that's what's going on. So we're going to leave her be. She's been working, and we love her for that. Next up, I discussed last week how I was in a mood that could only be solved from buying a new Bagoo bag. And I want to let you all know that I did buy a new Bagoo bag. And listen, because I'm gonna start talking about how I bought the new everyday cloud bag, and I bought it in blurred gingham, and I'm gonna be starting to sound like an advertisement. And I want to say this is not sponsored. However, if anyone would like to sponsor me, I would like it to be Baggu. The reason being because I feel like, at the end of the day, all businesses are businesses. I mean, some are much worse than others. But if I'm going to have ads, I want it to be Baggu. They've had some controversy, like they were beefing with Bart like a couple months ago. They've had an artist that they collabed with, like, use AI. Like, there's been kerfuffles. Let's just say that. But if I ever have sponsors on a podcast, like, hear me out. Okay, you can mark my words on this, actually, unless for some reason I'm like under a network or some sort where I can't control the advertising. You get the Alex Piscatelli guarantee that if I ever have ads like on a podcast for whatever reason, you will not hear me doing ads for sports betting, okay, for betting, because I've been hearing some podcasts, and you will also never catch me doing it for, like, what's Serena Williams doing the ads for Roe or whatever. Don't even get me started. Like, all I can guarantee, because, okay, the sports betting thing actually pisses me off, because it's like, okay, we're gonna bet if it's gonna rain today. It's just like fueling gambling addiction. It's just not a good thing. I'm not sure why podcasters are out here promoting that. So yeah, Baggu. You know who to call, and that's me. But anyway, I did get my everyday cloud bag, the new bag shape from Baggu, and I got it in the blurred gingham. And yeah, I think I really love it. I was using like a backpack for school, and I was kind of over it, because I think you can have a backpack and that's fine. And many do. And I think that works for many. It wasn't working for me. I found some of my outfits, it was like riding up my leather jacket in the back. It wasn't working for me. It felt too buttoned up, too schooly. I want to feel like a professional woman. I do. I'm at that point. I want to feel stylish and professional and feel good. And I just don't feel like an LL Bean backpack is what's going to make me feel those things. I'm sure some can pull off making an LL Bean backpack sexy. It wasn't my vibe. So I did buy this new bag, and I love it. And is it good for my skeletal? I don't know, because here's the thing. I am pushing 29.75. I think the biggest thing that has been a signifier of getting older is my neck. Listen, I work out. I stretch after I work out. I think about my posture. I don't always implement good posture, but I do think about it. But my neck is the thing. And so I don't know if the Baggu is good for my neck, because if it's resting on my shoulder and I put hella stuff in my bag, it might not be good for my neck. And the thing is, I tweak my neck every maybe 2 days. Something happened, like, if someone calls my name, I'm at risk for tweaking my neck. It's just how it goes. And I think this is almost being in my 30s signifier. But you know what? I think I will take that over anything else any day. I mean, my neck does feel really important, but I don't know. The bag, it's just like, you got to look good. And if the compromise is your neck hurting at some points, then so be it. But anyway, before we get into our segments, I wanted to talk a little bit about Valentine's Day, because this is the Valentine's Day special after all. I think, first of all, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day in the sense that, like, oh, I celebrate it with like my partner and I go to a nice dinner and I do whatever. I don't think that's what Valentine's Day is about. I feel like Valentine's Day is about love of all kinds. Like, it's not only about romantic relationships. And so I think it's like of the utmost importance to, like, obviously, like, tell family and friends you love them. But it's like about being cute. Like, I don't know. I wasn't thinking that hard about it, but I kind of want to, like, get the little Valentines for people and give them out. I feel like that could be really cute. But I just feel like I miss the excitement that Valentine's Day was growing up. And then I feel like once we got into our, like, I don't know, like, end of high school, college, age, like it almost felt like Valentine's Day was this thing that like was exclusive to romantic relationships. And I was certainly single all of that time. So I feel like I like stopped celebrating because I was like, oh, the only people who are celebrating are like people who are like going to Nobu or whatever, you know what I mean? And so like, I don't know. I guess when I think of Valentine's Day, like I have a few particular stories. Like my parents would get us like little Valentine's Day like gifts. I have like my mom had gotten me a Starbucks gift card. Honestly, I think it was the Valentine's Day after my dad died, but I'm not positive. And I still have the little note like on my little shelf like in my bedroom by my desk, and it says like, we will love you forever, love mom and dad. And like, I don't know, I guess that's what I think of when I think of Valentine's Day. Or like when I was little, I remember there was at my local mall, Parkway Plaza in El Cajon, I remember there was like this popcorn stand. I don't know how long it was there. I don't know how they made their money, probably from stuff like this. But my dad bought me like a giant heart that was like popcorn dipped in like something red. Low-key, it was stale. He had to go return it. But like, I just think of stuff like that. Like, I feel like that's so cute to celebrate Valentine's Day and like not make it about romantic relationships, because I just feel like romantic relationships, and listen, when I say this, like my husband is also my friend. So like I celebrate him because I love him, you know what I mean? But like, I just feel like Valentine's Day being the day to celebrate, like couples get so many days. Couples get their anniversaries. Like once you're married, you get your wedding anniversary. Like you get your like, oh, like let's have our like first date and first kiss and first sex anniversary. Like, you know what I mean? There's like so many things possible to celebrate that I feel like Valentine's Day should be for the friends and the people you love and the family and whatever. That's my take. And that's why like one of my friends was like thinking of celebrating or having a Valentine's Day party, and I was like, you should, I'm there. And he was like, shouldn't you be busy? And I'm like, no, I shouldn't, because that's not what it is about. It's about being cute. And last thing, because another story I remember is in 6th grade, I had this Target dress, okay? Like, I loved it. Like, it was, like, pink and polka dotted. Or maybe it was white with pink polka dots. It was I know it was some variant of, like, pink and white. And it had, like, a bow around the midsection. And just imagine, like, a little girl's dress. Like, that was the vibe. Like, it, like, had a bow in the back. Poofy. Tight on the top. Yeah. And I wore it on Valentine's Day, and I had my little bob. Oh my God. No, it was a look. Like, it honestly was a look. Like, I had my bob, like I pinned it half up, half down. And then I had my Valentine's Day dress, and I bought a little, like, I feel like I had like either a basket or I had something to hold my Valentines in and to put the Valentines that people gave me in. And I just like walked around with that. I feel like that's the vibe. That's what I'm going for this Valentine's Day. So remember, it's not about the couples. It's about me, okay? And so happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I curated a specific playlist of songs that they're either like lovey or cute or sexy or fun. Like that was the vibe today. Starting with Stevie Wonder, You Are the Sunshine. Me and my husband have a CD, or we've been listening to CDs more because I have my physical media rant, which I'm sure I'll get into. But the song just makes me feel so good, so sexy, you know what I mean? So we'll get into this first, and then we will get into our thesis segment and then my advice segments. But first, enjoy this music, and I'll see ya soon. Welcome back to Grief Support Group. You just heard Stevie Wonder and Bad Bunny, and we are now in the section of the show. Also, I'm your host, Alex Piscatelli, if anyone is new here. You are now in the section of the show where we discuss my thesis, yes, and the latest update. And then I talk a little bit about either pop culture or something, grief related or research related that I want to jump into. And I have stuff to say today, okay? So, because this is the Valentine's Day episode, yes, we're going to talk about death, but promise we will relate it back to love. But isn't it all related? I said but really loud. Isn't it all related in some way? I think it is. Okay, well, let's get into my thesis update. So for those who don't know, I am doing a thesis because I am almost graduating from my master's program. Yes, it is true. We are mere weeks away, less than 12, certainly. Or maybe exactly 12. I don't know, whatever. We are weeks away. And my thesis is looking at how fans of teen drama shows understand and interpret grief. So I, as mentioned, almost 2 weeks ago, had conducted 6 interviews. Everyone showed up. Everyone answered the questions. It was great. And then since then, I've been trying to get to my sexy number 8 number of interviews, and I have not gotten responses, which is wild. So essentially what I'm doing is I am cutting off, I'm done with interviews Sunday. So I think I'm going to do 1 or 2 more if I can, if people respond, but Sunday I am done, and then I am going into analysis mode, because the most important thing is to finish my thesis, right? So we will get there. But yeah, it feels good. It feels really good. So more to come there. I'm sure of it. Okay. Well, as many of you know, I love The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I would say I'm rewatching it, to supplement working on my thesis, which regards it. But no, I'm more watching it to supplement my Sudoku playing, because I play my Sudokus every single night, and I like to have something on as I'm playing my Sudokus. It's like one of those things where, like, you know, those people who need like 5 screens so they can't have a thought. Yeah, I align. So I have my Sudoku on my iPad. I have The Summer I Turned Pretty playing, or I'm playing like some sort of Survivor podcast. So I've been rewatching The Summer I Turned Pretty once again. I've done this many times, but I'm rewatching it once again as I play my Sudoku. I'm now in season 2. I think I'm on the last episode of season 2. So like Belly and Jeremiah were just like making out as Conrad was in his test, his final exam that they helped him study for, just making out in front of the car. So that's the part where I'm at in season 2. So almost at the end of season 2. And I will get to more on The Summer I Turned Pretty. But first, I want to talk about a book that I'm reading for class and some thoughts on it. And when I say this, that I have thoughts on it, it is with a complete open mind, in the sense that, like, I'm just discussing it from my vantage point and not that I disagree or entirely agree or whatever. And I respect all opinions. Let me just preface that out there. Because when I discuss things, it's not like that I'm insulting them in any sense of the word. I'm just kind of talking through them to figure out how I feel about them. But one of the books we had to read, because I am taking a death and dying class for my psychology. I don't know why I said my psychology as if I have ownership over it. This is literally the first psychology class I have ever taken. But yeah, it's a death and dying class. And so we've been doing like a bunch of different readings, readings that like in ways can contradict each other. Right. So the reading I wanted to talk about is one we read last week. And actually it was quite beautiful because I was reading it when it was like beautiful weather. Like along the water. It was really great. Anyway, this book is called No Death, No Fear by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's really great. I believe he's a Buddhist monk, and he talks a lot about like the teachings of the Buddha when he talks about like the concepts of death, or I guess I should say lack thereof, because again, the title is No Death, No Fear. So there were many things I really liked about it and that really resonated with me. One idea in particular is like this idea that everything is everything and everyone is everything. I want to read this particular part. And he said, so it's this section that says no coming and no going, which of course relates to the no death, right? No birth, no death, which is this idea that he discusses. But he says, nothing has a separate self and nothing exists by itself. If we examine things carefully, we will see that all phenomena, including ourselves, are composites. We are made up of other parts. We are made of our mother and father, our grandmothers and grandfathers, our body, our feelings, our perceptions, our mental formations, the earth, the sun, the innumerable non-self elements. All these parts depend on causes and conditions. We see that all that has existed, exists, or will exist is interconnected and interdependent. All that we see has only manifested because it was part of something else, of other conditions that make it possible to manifest. All phenomena are neither produced nor destroyed because they are in constant process of manifesting. So that part I love. Like, I totally agree with that. I think from a very young age, my family and I discussed this, that actually my dad used to say this. It's so funny because, like, obviously my dad died when I was 17. So, like, I was starting to have, like, I don't know, more like intelligible conversations with him as I got into like my teenage years. But like, I've never had a true adult conversation with him, right? Like, I would love to debate and discuss and whatever. I was just so young, but there's this thing he used to say that, like, oh my God, like an atom like looks like the universe. You know what I mean? Like, isn't it crazy? Or maybe not an atom. Oh my God, I'm butchering it, not him. But like, isn't it crazy how like or a cell or whatever, like the smallest thing looks like the biggest thing that we have like concepts of. And I think that's really interesting because, like, I fully agree with this idea, right? That we are everything. Like, we are no different than a tree, and the things that we, or like the manifestation of who we are and what we are right now is like the result of not only our upbringing and the people around us and the experiences we've had and everything, but it's also like the result of our ancestors and all the people before that, and you know, everything ever. Like, we are here because of everything ever. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, on a granular scale, like, I think a lot about like how I am my parents. But then if I like obviously step back even further, I see how I am everything. And like, I feel like that makes you feel special, right? But no, in this book, No Death, No Fear, he discusses how this means everything is essentially nothing. And like, I want to read this. So there's this separate part. And he says, we are afraid of death, we are afraid of separation, and we are afraid of nothingness. In the West, people are very afraid of nothingness. When they hear about emptiness, people are also very afraid. But emptiness just means the extinction of ideas. Emptiness is not the opposite of existence. It is not nothingness or annihilation. The idea of existence has to be removed, and so does the idea of non-existence. Emptiness is a tool to help us. And so, like, sure, like in a perfect world, obviously it would be great if we all agreed with that, right? But we don't live in a perfect world. I think we live in a world where, like, the teachings of this make so much sense because it's such collectivism, like, where we're all in this together. And I ultimately really believe in that. But I think we live in such an individualistic world, or individualistic country, and like Western ideas, like that I can't separate the fact that like everything ever has led to me and who I am right now from the fact that I am like nothing, you know what I mean? Or I am empty. Like, I see it more as like, oh my God, everything led to me, so I have this main character syndrome, right? Which, hey, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. But I think there's this like certain section he talks about that it's like, when it comes to death and birth, like, think of it as a wave. So like a wave manifests in the ocean and then it crashes and the wave is no longer there, right? And it's not that the wave like never existed or whatever. It was part of everything. It was there. It was part of everything. And while I do like that idea, I feel like that takes away from the fact that like the wave doesn't have feelings. The wave isn't in grad school right now. The wave isn't like hosting a radio show. And so I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think there's a lot of ways we can take that into account. But I think in the world or the country we live in our culture is so much more individualistic that it's hard to just sort of let go and allow life to be just what it is, when we have so many, what I talked about last week, immortality projects that we're working on in this life, that like put more importance on, I don't know, the things we're doing in this world and in this life, that how could we just like kind of let that go? I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm going to relate this because I think this idea of the wave being like symbolizing no death, and that the wave and the ocean is ever present, I think is a huge point of symbolism in The Summer I Turned Pretty. So let's discuss that. I think when you're seeing all the really pivotal scenes in The Summer I Turned Pretty, think Conrad's panic attack. Think in season 3 when Conrad tells Belly like that he's always had feelings for her, and he finds out that like Jeremiah cheated and all these things. Think when they made their relationship official. Just so many moments, especially between Belly and Conrad, happen like in front of the waves. And I think this is meant to like symbolize like the vastness of their grief, but I also think it's meant to symbolize like the life that has like brought them there. Like obviously Susanna's presence is so felt because like she made the family unit and the house like what it was. And I think like the constant like waves are supposed to represent, I don't know, like the life she brought there. And so I think like you can take the story of The Summer I Turned Pretty and like put it in a completely different setting or whatever, but then it's not going to be like, it's not going to be about Susanna. Like I think the whole point is that the waves and Susanna like coexist. And so she's meant to be ever present, even if you're not constantly talking about her, the way that you're not constantly talking about the ocean, even though it's like the complete backdrop of the whole story. Yeah, I think it's really maybe only I could relate like a Buddhist monk teaching to The Summer I Turned Pretty, but I think it's really important to do so because I think the significance of like these teachings about death and grief in pop culture can be so overt, like the scenes where they're explicitly talking about grief and explicitly talking about Susanna, and like when they're at the funeral, for example, which mind you, the funeral was not at the summer home, it was in Boston and there was no waves in sight, right? So it's like you're being more explicitly shown this, whereas like every other scene, all the scenes that they're happy or joyous or not happy and not joyous when they're like going through it, they're all have that backdrop of the ocean. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. I will be watching more The Summer I Turned Pretty because that's just what you have to do. But yeah, we will have more updates for you. I don't know why I said we. I will have more updates for you on the thesis next week. We're going to get into a song break and then we are going to go into our advice questions. Gotta bring in Ariana. I'll see you soon. Welcome back to Grief Support Group. You just heard Sweetener by Ariana Grande, and that is the song I'm talking about that makes you feel sexy. I remember when the album Sweetener came out, I was living in LA. I talk about this all the time because it was just so formative to who I am and what I'm about. I literally remember I liked Ariana Grande. Like I feel like I've always liked her songs. There was an old tweet of mine where I was like, you know, I like that song, One Less Problem Without You, but like I can't understand what she's saying, like like me at like 17. But I don't know, there was something that like shifted my brain. First No Tears Left to Cry was released, like I think it was like April of 2018, and I liked it. And then I was like living in LA and I was working at E! and my coworkers all like stand someone. Like my manager and one of the other like higher ups on the social media team when I worked at E! Like they both were huge Swifties, and I was like, oh my god, I want to have someone like, who's my artist? And then Ariana Grande released God Is a Woman before like the Sweetener album came out, and I said she's mine. Like that's who I love. And it all it all fell into place. Literally, I feel very lucky. I was talking about this with my best friend because she feels really connected to Olivia Dean, who I actually haven't really listened to too much yet, and I need to, especially after my best friend said that. She told me this like a few days ago. But she was like, yeah, I always saw like other people have like their artists, like yours is Ariana. And I'm like, oh my God, I finally found mine. And I'm like, yeah, that's so true. Cause like Ariana could release anything. And I feel like I would still love it because I just love everything she does. Anyway, this is not our advice segment, but we're now in our advice segment. So today we have 2 love and dating related questions. If you want to ask a question for a future episode, please do so. You can do so at bit.ly/KSFS advice. That's bit.ly/KSFS advice. Let's get into our first episode. Oh my God, first question. This person asked, should I kiss on the first date? Or when is it acceptable to do anything of the sort? Okay, I love this question, and I'm going to give the most annoying answer, which is like, you do whatever, you know what I mean? But like, I feel like, okay, I wrote down 3 examples, and this is not an all-inclusive list. I just wanted to give 3 examples of what could occur. And this is from the perspective of like, I'm a woman dating men. So also like heed that. But I wanted to give some examples. So first and foremost, just feel out the vibe. That's my grand statement. Feel out the vibe. However, if you like someone, kiss them. At least kiss them. You could do more, but at least kiss them. If you like them, why not? You know what I mean? I feel like I felt often that if I didn't kiss someone on the first date and I liked them, or like that they didn't like try to kiss me on the first, whatever, I felt like, oh wait, did that like not go that well? I felt like I prefer to kiss on the first date, at least kiss on the first date, obviously feel out the vibe. But yeah, I feel like it's just never a bad thing to do what's calling out to you in the moment. So here's my 3 examples. And take with this what you will. First example. So when I was living in LA, I was obviously dating quite a lot. I loved a first date. And I've said this before. I think it's really important to go on a lot of first dates because like you're not doing it to like be official with every single person you go on a date with. It's to meet new people and to have fun and experiment. You know what I mean? And so there was this guy that I met on an app. And we were talking back and forth, and like I wasn't like entirely feeling the situation. This is gonna sound insane. I wasn't like entirely like, cause like I could tell by texting banter and like the way they set up their profile. I mean, obviously I swiped right, but like I was just like, I don't know, like I'm not entirely sure. But he worked at BuzzFeed. And like, if you know BuzzFeed in like 2019, like it was not what it was in like the early to mid 2010s, but like it was still BuzzFeed. And so he worked as like a video person at BuzzFeed, and he was like, oh, I could get you on a video. Like it was like one of those ones, like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, goes on first date, or like one of those ones. I don't know. I don't even know an example, but like, he was like, oh yeah, like I can get you on a BuzzFeed video. And I said, okay, yeah, let's go on a date. I'm down. So we went on a date, and I feel like it was a really ideal setting because we had gone to a bar, and like we sat at the bar and we were just talking or whatever. Probably like 2 hours. I feel like even on a bad date, I don't think I've ever been on one that was like less than an hour. I feel like you still want to get to know them. I don't know, unless it's like really bad, but I don't think I've ever been on one that was like, oh my God, so bad that I had to leave that second. There's been bad ones, but like, I feel like I was still interested in like, I don't know, the social experiment of it all. So anyway, me and this guy sat at the bar, and yeah, like I was like interested in being on his BuzzFeed video. But like we were sitting there, and I just like knew it wasn't for me. Like I liked him just fine. Like it wasn't a horrendous date. He just like wasn't my vibe, like entirely. And at the end of the date, he asked to kiss me because he liked me. What can I say? And I was just like, oh, I don't kiss on the first date. Lie. But sometimes you have to lie, because I didn't want to be like, oh, I don't want to kiss you because I'm not interested, because like that's just like not what I'm trying to do. But I told him, yeah, no, I don't kiss on the first date. And then we didn't kiss, and that was that. And I think he knew that I would kiss on the first date. And I mean, come on, I had a dating podcast. And I feel like I give off a flirty energy. I don't know. So that was that. The end. All was good. So I like that. What I like about that situation is he didn't just like lean in. It wasn't just like it wasn't like there was nothing like ambiguous about it. Like I like that he made it very clear he was asking if we could kiss, and I made it very clear that I wasn't interested in that way, or interested in that moment to kiss, and that was that. I feel like that's a good example of like he felt out the vibe. He wanted to see if that vibe was there. It wasn't. End of story. And then we're good. You know what I mean? I don't feel a certain way that he had asked. I felt fine about it. There's one example. Example number 2. I had a date, and admittedly, the date ended up being like a 4 or 5 hour date. Like it was kind of insane. And I didn't like him like the first hour, and then like something happened after an hour that I was like, oh wait, I'm kind of interested. Wait, he's like kind of cute. Like, but it took a while to get there. And then the end of the date, because again, it was such a long date, like he leaned in for a hug, but like the way he was leaning in, I thought he was like going for a kiss. It's honestly like really mortifying. Like I went in for the kiss because I thought he was, and he wasn't. And like, I don't even it's honestly so horrible to like think about, but like we didn't like, we kind of like kissed, but like not really. Like it was really weird. And then like we would like text after the fact, and he kind of like teased me about it. And then like our second date, because that had happened and because we're being like teasy over text, like we ended up doing a lot more than that on the second date. And then that was it. Like, he kind of ghosted me after that. Actually, for Dating or At Least Trying, which was my dating podcast, for Dating or At Least Trying Truthers, the second episode ever I did was with a guy who ghosted me. That was the person. But like, I use that as an example of like, I don't know, the vibe was like really confusing, and he kind of looked like he was leaning in, but obviously that wasn't what he was going for. It got really awkward. And I didn't even like him in the first like beginning of the date, even though it went on longer. So that's an example of like ambiguity that I don't think is a good thing. Okay, now I will get into example 3. And I will talk about me and Jack, my husband's first date. So we had already known each other, and then like I had like slid in his DMs. It was always like a kind of flirtatious vibe after we had met, and then like we were just like Instagram friends or whatever for like months. Then I had slid in his DMs, and then we went on our first date. And like it got like on the first date, like it got like flirty in a physical way pretty immediately. Like I feel like we were both nervous the first, let's say like 30 minutes. And then I feel like we were like touching hands or like like leaning in, you know what I mean? Like a little bit into the date. So then during the date at a certain point, like we were like walking to the next place, and he asked to kiss me, and then we kissed, and then we like kissed more, and then we went to the next place, and then I went home with him that night. And all of this to say is that was another asking and another vibe and another feeling the vibe as the night went on. So like I think the moral of the story, depending on like if you're the person who wants to be like the upfront asking or whatever, I think there should always be a question. I think leaning in, unless you like know the person or whatever, I don't know, so maybe it's different, but I feel like it's never a good idea to simply lean in and just like kiss. Like I think you should always ask if you're feeling the vibe, and if that's not the vibe and they're not down, they'll say no. As long as you ask in a way that's not like weird, or you know what I mean? So, and like makes them feel uncomfortable. But I think like asking is like the most important thing. And like, yeah, I think I think it's just never a bad thing to do what's calling to you in the moment. I feel like there's lots of like weird rules. Like I remember back in like 2017, mind you, this is before I was having sex. But back in 2017 or 2016, I had a friend who was like, oh yeah, like I have to wait to have sex like at 90 days, like talking to someone, because then it'll, like the odds of them, like it was like something she read in like Steve Harvey's book or something. I don't know. Or like he said on his I don't even know. But like she was like, yeah, I have to wait 90 days because like if I don't, like he's not going to like me anymore and yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, I don't like those rules because I don't think it's true. I think you can have sex on the first date. You can have sex before the first date. You can have sex 90 days in. You can have sex whenever. And I think if you vibe with someone and you like them and they like you, like that's never going to be an issue. There's never going to be rules to it. So I think it's really important to do whatever's calling to you in the moment, because some people you might want to have sex with them, or I guess you asked about kissing and now I'm talking about sex. But I think like there's going to be some people you want to kiss right away, and there's going to be some people that you maybe don't want that to get in the way of like whatever you're figuring out with your relationship with them. But I think there's no hard and set rule. I don't know if this answered your question, but do whatever you need to do. But I think the most success comes when you ask first. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. And that is my advice on kissing on the first date. Good luck with it. We have one more advice question before we get to the end of our show. But first, we're going to take another music break, and I will see you soon. Welcome back to Grief Support Group. We are approaching the end of our show, but we're going to answer one more advice question. You just listened to Talk Remix and mine, two songs that remind me of 2019 and when I first started dating Jack. So I wanted to play those for our Valentine's Day episode. And so, you know, we got the whole variety. We got songs that make you feel love, songs that make you feel sexy and flirty, songs that make you feel fun. You know, we had a good variety today. But we're going to get into our final advice question. And this person asked, and guess what? I have a lot to say, okay? This person asked, how do you deal with the dating landscape when people weaponize or misuse therapy talk, like avoidant, gaslight, etc.? I don't feel like many of these men are actually in therapy, just that they know the right buzzwords. Okay. Since you are talking specifically about men, I'm going to too. Don't trust men, okay? Using therapy speak. I don't trust it. I feel like there's like those memes going around that are like the performative male or man or whatever. And he's like drinking a matcha, and he has like a Labubu on his belt, and he has like the Bell Hooks book. Like, I don't trust it, because I want to know a guy genuinely like enjoys matcha. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like if they're using therapy speak, like you can't trust it. And I also think, listen, I don't agree with this entirely. But I feel like people talk about how like have you ever seen like people talk about online how like the worst person you know is like in therapy getting like validation or whatever for their actions? And again, I think it's great people are in therapy. I think it's a good tool for a lot of people. And yeah, that being said, I feel like there's certainly men, especially who misuse it or are doing it with ill intent. And these are probably people who already were acting in ill intent before therapy speak. And now they have tools to like, I don't know, like weaponize it further. I like that you use that word weaponize or misuse. It reminds me of, and I don't think this like pertained to dating. This was just like pertaining to friendships. But do you remember in like 2020 or 2021 where there was that like text circulating, and it was this person, I don't know if she was like a therapist or what her vibe was, but she was like, yeah, like if a friend is asking you for help with something, send them this like template. And the template said, hey, I'm actually at capacity right now for like XYZ reason, so like reach back out XYZ, like I'm sorry this happened to you, but like I cannot respond to like your troubles because of XYZ reason. And that pisses me off, because I think that we have come to an understanding of ideas like boundaries and like needing to take care of ourselves before we take care of others, which is great. I think those are all like really important things. But I think like the way we talk about them on the internet has like completely misinterpreted like what the whole point of those things are supposed to be. I think a lot about like psychology and therapy like can be packaged for a lot of people, especially when like, I mean, therapy is expensive. Like, it's not always accessible. I think maybe it's more accessible now, or maybe just because more people talk about it and whatever. There's like sliding scale and different options for people that are like readily, that you can find more easily maybe than ever. But I think, so in ways this isn't a bad thing, but I think like psychology and therapy easily become packaged for people, and they become like, you know, when people say like pop psychology, like if you think of like the attachment styles, or you think of I don't know, me and Jack reference this a lot, like we'll say like let them theory, but there's that like Mel Robbins book, I think that's her name, that is called Let Them Theory, and it's like whatever. So it's like there's different things that get packaged for like a mass audience that like have their basis in psychology and therapy, of course, but they become pop psychology, right? But now I feel like we're entering a time where like this pop psychology becomes TikTok videos and TikTok influencers being like, oh, here's like the truth, and here's how you should approach X, Y, and Z. And I think that's when we got that person's post that was like telling your friends, hey, I'm actually at capacity, like I don't have the room for your feelings and your thoughts about whatever you're going through, which I think really sucks. I think that like period of time kind of impacted me a lot, in the sense that like I was like, oh my God, I don't want to like burden my friends, but I also think that's like what life is about. Like we're supposed to like have community care and like, I don't know, show our friends that we care and like be there for our friends and whatever. And I think it's dangerous to like misuse these terms, because like I think there's a difference in having a bad day and not being able to help your friend, but then like telling your friend for like months on end that you're at capacity and you can't help them. I think that's kind of insane. And I think if men are misusing these words, F them, you know what I mean? Like I really hate that. And I think there's warning signs, and like I think if they try to say that they're almost like better than others because they've gone through therapy, which like you can kind of get those signifiers early on if someone believes that, I think that's a huge red flag. I think I'm like if they have a labubu, no, I'm just kidding. But I think you can really grasp pretty quickly like if someone feels that way, because I also think like the average person who has been in therapy, I don't think they like overtly talk about their therapy. I genuinely don't. I don't think it's something that comes up like pretty immediately, like because I think therapy is not, I don't know, maybe I'm being too like a certain way I'm thinking about it, but I feel like a therapy is like something to help understand like your own feelings and not necessarily others. And I feel like if you're like understanding others through therapy speak, like you're kind of doing something wrong, because I feel like everything is so like particular to the individual, where if you're trying to like psychoanalyze someone else, which like I think you can like for fun. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I think this person is doing this because of XYZ. But that's like kind of a rude thing to do. Like, it's more like, I feel like it's like, that's something you do like with just your closest friends about someone else. But I think if you're like genuinely trying to analyze someone through therapy speak and analyze someone else and like put something onto someone else, like I think you're doing therapy wrong. Like therapy should be about yourself and about your own individual experience. And yes, you can understand like your response to other people's actions, but I don't think it's like, oh, I'm like analyzing what they do. You know what I mean? And again, maybe I'm being too simplistic about it, but all this to say is like, don't trust these men. If they use the word avoidant and gaslight early on when you're dating them, like why are they using that word? You know what I mean? Like don't say that. I feel like that's like I feel like those are red flags. And it reminds me of, I can't like think of like the particulars of it, but it reminds me of like that Jonah Hill. What did he do? Do you remember what I'm talking about? That was also in like 2021. I feel like the therapy speak was really huge in like 2020 and 2021. Because I feel like the 2010s, like, Because I remember when my dad died in 2013, and then like it was end of 2013, so let's say 2014, my mom was like, oh, like, would you like to see a therapist? Like, maybe that would be helpful. And I was like, no, I don't want to see a therapist. Like, that's weird. Because at that time it did feel weird. Like when I was 17, 18, I didn't want a therapist because I was like the only person I knew who would have one. And then also like no one had therapy / no one was talking about therapy in that way. So maybe people did, but like it wasn't like this popular thing to have. And I think in the late 2010s, like we started to get into more conversations about mental health, but specifically about like anxiety and depression. I feel like other mental health conditions are still stigmatized. But like I feel like stuff like anxiety and depression became like kind of like popular to talk about and discuss, and so did therapy as a result. And yeah, I think we got into a weird sort of toxic place when it comes to mental health and like putting the onus onto others in a way. And I think if people are still doing that now, they don't have an understanding of what therapy I think is supposed to be. And especially men, I feel like if men are doing that when you're dating them, I feel like that is intentional. And I don't love that. So that being said, don't trust them, which I already think you don't, but I think that's an immediate red flag. So that is my advice. So tell them you're at capacity, okay? But anyway, this has been another episode of, oh my God, I almost said dating, or at least trying. That's crazy. This has been another episode of Grief Support Group. Thank you all for being here as always. I love you all. If you want to ask a question for a future episode, you can do so at bit.ly/KSFS advice. Now, me and my bagoo are going to head out and have a great day. We're at an 8 right now. Let's see how that remains. We're going to finish up with one more song, and then I will see you all next week. Goodbye.